This is Frank Consello with the Crested Butte Home podcast, and today we are going to talk about hockey with my guest, Deuce Wynes, who is one of the better players in the Gunnison Valley and also a coach, and just has always been involved in the hockey scene, and wanted to talk to him, even though hockey season is starting to wind down, at least locally. Of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs are just starting, but in any case, please visit CrestedButteHome.com for all the other podcast interviews. If you haven't listened to them all, go ahead and do that, and you can reach out to me there if you have any questions about the podcast or about Crested Butte and Gunnison real estate. Let's get on with the interview. On today's Crested Butte Home podcast, my guest is Deuce Wynes. So Deuce, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
I've moved here in year 2000, and I grew up in Minnesota. Pretty much lived in Minnesota my whole life, and then went off to college in Chicago for a couple of years, and then up in northern peninsula of Michigan, Sault Ste. Marie, and after that, I moved down and traveled a little bit. I moved to Texas to play a little bit of hockey when I was done with school. And after that, I moved out to Colorado and have been here in Crested Butte since 2000.
And your real name is not Deuce. How did Deuce come about?
The real name is Paul, and I'm just the second Paul in the family. And when we were all around the house when we were younger, my mom would yell Paul, and then we'd both be answering, and I had a nickname Deuce, and the nickname was from one of my parents' friends. Because my name is Paul William Wynes II, and my dad's name is Paul William Wynes the second as well. He was junior and I wasn't junior, so whatever. But it all got mixed into the bag, and Deuce kind of stuck because it was just easier around the house.
Gotcha. Deuce is basically just a different way of saying junior, sort of.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it, and you kind of mentioned it briefly, but we're going to talk about hockey quite a bit. So you grew up in Minnesota. Minnesota, the nickname is the state of hockey. So when did you start playing, and what's your family history? Did your dad play too, and other family? Or?
Yeah, no family history, but we were in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, when I was really young, and my dad he had been transferred with work there to Fergus Falls, Minnesota, which is a smaller town in northern Minnesota. So basically, the only option for sports up there at the time was hockey, So I remember one of my buddies and myself going into the hockey store, and my parents were with us, and they're like, okay, we're going to get hockey gear. And I started, basically from the day I remember walking and just skating as a young child there.
Yeah.
From then on, my dad was transferred down to the Minneapolis area and Apple Valley and the suburb of St. Paul, Minnesota, and just continued to play hockey, youth hockey in Apple Valley until high school. After high school, I played another year of junior hockey in the USHL for the St. Paul Vulcans, which they no longer exist. But the USHL is going very strong, and it's a great elite league, a junior league in the United States. From there, I played 1 year, and I was offered a scholarship to play in the CCHA at University of Illinois Chicago. And I accepted that offer and went to Chicago, and it was a big change of scenery from Minnesota to Chicago, downtown Chicago.
How so? You're already in kind of a big Midwest city too, but...
Yeah, but even, Chicago is just a completely different pace than Minneapolis was.
Okay, fair enough.
Right in downtown Chicago there.
We'll keep going with as your hockey progresses, but let's back up. So I've heard that Minnesota high school hockey, it's almost like football in Texas. Is it like that? Like the whole town comes out to watch high school hockey?
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. Growing up, playing after my sophomore year of high school, we had a pretty good hockey team, and we made it to the regional finals to get into the state tournament. that year, and on any given night, we were ranked in the top 10 in the state as a high school team. And on any given night, we would have, at our local rink, we would have 2,000 to 4,000 people at a game.
Wow.
And then it just, as you went further into the season, it just continued to build, So at that time, the Met Center was still around, and the Minnesota North Stars were there. So in the regional final game, we were playing at the Met Center, and we were playing in front of crowds that were 17,000 people.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a big deal
thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go back to college then. So Chicago, how'd Illinois Chicago go then?
Good. I had a great time. I met my wife in Chicago, which was a great thing. She was actually a basketball player. She was a D1 basketball player, and it was a kind of a commuter campus. A lot of people came in from out of town, or not out of town, but commuted into school. So the athletic group there was a small niche group, and about 500 or so athletes between various different sports, but we were all pretty tight as far as our group because we were all on campus there, and we were kind of there all the time. So, but yeah, I played Division I hockey there, and after my second year, they decided to kind of change direction with how they were going to go with their sports, and they decided to drop the hockey program in the CCHA. With that being said, I went through the whole recruiting process again, and I went on 5 national visits and ended up going up to Lake Superior State and playing my last 2 years at Lake Superior State.
What were the other colleges that you took a look at?
I went to St. Cloud State. I went to University of North Dakota, and I went to Michigan State, and I went to University of New Hampshire as well. So.
Nice. Why'd you pick Lake Superior then?
Well, that was a little tough. At the time, Jeff Jackson was the coach there, and they had just come off winning the national championship. And so I wanted to go, and I played against those guys, so they were in our league in the CCHA. And they were always really strong, and I just thought, the world of that place just because the coach was tremendous and they had a lot of success. So I went on my interview, and there was some grumblings in the hockey community that Jeff Jackson was going to take a coaching job as a new U.S. Development program down in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is currently still going on. It was kind of the inaugural season of it, and he swore up and down to me that he was not going to take that job. So without, to make a long story short, Jeff, literally 2 weeks after I had signed my letter of intent to go play at Lake State, he took a national coaching job, and so a whole new coaching staff came in, and know it. So
at that point, is it an option to then switch again or not?
NCAA college sports, it's kind of tough. Like, they're pretty particular about, you can't really switch without losing years of eligibility, and it's very tight-lipped that way. I probably could have, petitioned to do something different, but I'd just let it be. So
yeah, it would have been a process, and if it didn't work, then you'd be
playing
there like, I'm super happy to be here, guys.
Right. Yeah.
So how did things go there?
It was okay. My first year we were decent. We lost a couple. Once Jeff left, a couple of junior class. I would have been a junior class. Couple of those guys decided to go on and try their skills in the pro level, and so we lost a couple of really good skaters, and it was a little difficult. We didn't necessarily gel as a team, and kind of had a rough season for the next 2 years. So it was a little tough. And the new coach, he kind of brought in his recruiting class and the lower classmen, which is fine. You got to have all kinds of different classes playing on the team, but he kind of really catered to those guys, and the upperclassmen kind of got shuffled aside, and there was a lot of contention between which recruiting class was who. So it was a tough situation for sure.
Weird. Weird. Yeah. All right. So then you moved on, and what was next up in your hockey career?
Well, yeah. After my senior year, I was just kind of burnt out of hockey, but I had a good friend that was down in El Paso, Texas, of all places, playing in the Western Professional Hockey League, and he called me and asked me to come down and play down there, and I was like, well, I don't know, like minor league hockey, sure, I'll give it a try, and finished my I was able to finish my school that summer, graduate, so I was all set with school, and so I was just starting the next chapter in life, and decided to go play minor league hockey for a while. So I went down to El Paso and tried out down there for a semi-pro team and made the team, and played a couple years down there, which was great. I had that was my one friend said, come play hockey. The hockey is super competitive, but it's more laid back as far as just it's just going to be fun. And it was still hockey, and that's the hard thing about hockey or any sports. The further you go along in those sports, the more competition there is. There's always somebody kind of right behind you that wants your spot, and so that gets a little tiring after a while. But with that being said, it was super fun. I was able to travel in the southern part of the states, all the way across all the way through Texas, up into New Mexico, all the way over to Louisiana, and I saw areas of the country that I would have never seen before. I never saw it before, and I probably will never.
You may not again.
You might not again. I had fun in Louisiana and seeing those places, but I don't envision myself going back down there for anything in particular right now. But it allowed me, just like any other hockey, allowed me to travel and see other parts of the country that I don't know if I'll ever see or would have seen. So
what's the hockey scene in the hotbed of Louisiana and Texas?
It was interesting. We had a good fan presence, which was great, but basically in that league we played in literally barns. All the coliseums were every team in the league had to basically leave for 3 weeks during their season and be on the road because the local rodeo would come into town. So
and take out the
ice, So
wow.
It was always an interesting scene. Basically every place that we went to was kind of more of a coliseum and more of a rodeo scene. But there were coliseums and there were rinks there, and it was a good following. And going back to playing in some of those games, some nights we'd play in front of 1,500 people. So
that was a big crowd or a small crowd?
I mean, small. I mean, I grew up playing in.
Well, that's what. So, what was a big crowd in El Paso then?
A big crowd, on a given night, we'd get 6,000 or 7,000 people.
Okay,
so
that's pretty.
But
good.
it was good. But it was just at the same time, it's am I really moving up in the world here? Playing in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And in hockey, in baseball, single A, double A, they're all controlled by a major league team.
Correct.
In hockey, are the pro league? I know the highest of the pro leagues or minor league pro leagues are tied in with a team, but El Paso, was that tied in with it?
We were actually an independent team.
Okay.
We didn't have any affiliation. We didn't have anybody above us telling our coach, who to play or whatever.
Okay.
So it was pretty nice that way, and that we didn't have an overriding factor on who was playing every night and what was going on with the team. So
and what would have been the next step then? If things had gone really well there, or
the next step would have been the AHL or the NHL. Depends on what kind of step you would have made. So that was it was basically a couple steps under the NHL. So
gotcha.
We had a couple guys. Sorry to interrupt. We had a couple guys that were in the NHL, on our team. So
that came back down.
Okay. They just still wanted to play hockey.
Sure.
And several throughout the league too. So
yeah.
Any given night there was probably 3 to 5 NHL players that you're playing against, ex-NHL players or guys that have been up and down, and so any given night it was that way for sure.
So and you did that for how many years? Just a couple of years?
Just 2 years, yeah.
Okay. And why'd you end up deciding to quit?
Well, I just was. After my first year. No, after my second year, a good friend of my wife and myself lived here. He went to school down at Western. And at the end of our school years, we would always travel out to Colorado because he was on quarters, we were on semesters, so we were done a couple weeks before he was. He was our best man in our wedding. He's still a good friend of ours, and he always invited us to come out and visit Colorado. And so we took him up on that, and so we'd come out for a couple weeks while he was finishing up school, and Sarah and I would just mess around doing the Colorado thing around here. Go snowmobiling, go skiing, do whatever, So anyways, after my second year, he was finally done with school, and I was all set because Sarah was still in Denver, and she was continuing with law school. She was at Denver University doing law school.
Okay.
And I was kind of all set to say, well, I'm just going to move over to Denver and kind of start a lifestyle in Denver and live there. But I got a call from Dave, and Dave said, well, I'm going to live in Crested Butte. And I said, okay, well, I'll be right over. Okay. So I kind of packed my bags and left, right when I had moved in with Sarah, and said, I'm going to go live in Crested Butte for the summer. And one summer I just fell in love with the place and haven't left since then.
So how was this working with her, this whole Chicago to...
it was tough. We dated long distance for a very long time.
It sounds like it.
It was tough, but it was always meant to be. So.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. In this week's Crested Butte Real Estate Minute, the first quarter of 2019 is now over, and it saw a slight increase in both the number of property transactions and dollar volume compared to the first quarter of 2018. So it seems like we're on track to have yet another good year. I am recording this in April, and it's kind of the calm before the storm of the busy summer season. I've always felt that April and May is a great time to visit and look at property, however, for a number of reasons. So if you want to do that, give me a shout. My name is Frank Consella, and my website is crestedbutterealestateagent.com, and all my contact info is there. So if you're thinking about coming this spring, give me a shout, and we can go take a look at some properties. So let's get back to the interview. All right, well, let's just, so you move here. Let's just stick with hockey, though. How would you describe the hockey scene here in the Gunnison Valley?
Well, when I first moved here, it was pretty. I was pretty amazed by how it was obviously all grassroots and pretty startup type situations. We had an outdoor rink, which to me was great because it was just going back to the roots of hockey at the time, and big mine ice arena, and no cover over it, and it was and there was a pretty competitive level of the men's league, Pigs and Storm. At the time.
That was a big
So I kind of stayed away from that and just didn't really get involved with the Pigs or a Storm team, and just actually a couple of us formed a newer team, which was the Northerners at the time, and we just tried to have fun with it. But as far as hockey, everyone, the Avs were new in town for the most part to Colorado, and they were having a lot of success. So I think hockey really jumped really quickly in Colorado. And there was quite a few adult players, and there was Town League, and there was good youth programs. I coached right when I moved here. I started coaching the Bantam team.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So I coached that level for probably, I want to say it was almost 7 years. So that was fun. I got to meet a lot of people and get involved with other families in the community and meet people, and it was a great experience. Try to just kind of get back to the game a little bit. So.
Why didn't you play for either the Storm or the Pigs, which were the two big teams back in the day?
I just didn't want to jump on one team or the other, and I had more fun playing with my buddies. They were just at the time it was they were trying to play Czech men's league hockey, and there was a lot of injuries on the weekend.
Those are rugged.
It was kind of rough, and whatever. I didn't want to get the politics of the whole thing, and I just enjoyed playing with my buddies.
Well, okay, let's fast forward even some more. And you have kids now, and so have they taken to hockey the same way that you did?
Yeah, we have a son who's 10 years old, and our daughter 13. She will go out and skate with us, and she enjoys hockey, but she doesn't play like any organized hockey. She'll go out to the rink and skate with us all the time. However, our son, he is completely on the opposite end of the spectrum, and hockey is kind of his life right now. He obviously enjoys everything else that Crested Butte has to offer, and plays soccer and golfs during the summer, and rides his bike, and does all the activities that we skis, and does everything around here. But hockey is basically now his number one.
That's the number one
love, right now. So
it's we're recording this in early April, so there's no more ice here, really. Well, actually, the Gunnison rink is still open?
Gunnison is not open.
Okay.
I mean, but we skated on Crested Butte's rink last weekend.
Okay, so you can still, even though it's technically not right. But he's into it enough where he's still skating. So let's talk about what he's up to, I guess, at this point, and what.
Yeah, he's been asking to play some spring hockey, and we actually went over to Denver and tried out against all the Denver kids over there, kind of playing for the Colorado Thunderbirds, and he was fortunate enough to make the team.
That's awesome.
Trying out there, and so now for the next 6 weekends, our schedule is to travel to Denver and play some more hockey,
Yeah.
One of those weekends, we traveled to Minneapolis and play in a tournament, the Stars and Stripes tournament, which is a AAA level tournament in Minneapolis, and teams from literally all over the world come in and play in that. I mean, there's teams from Canada, there's teams from all over the United States, there's teams from Europe. It's a pretty big tournament.
Was that a tournament you played in when you were a kid, too?
I never played in that, no.
But did it exist or not?
It did not exist at the time, no.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been really cool.
So, well, let's talk about, do you think, as far as his hockey development, do you think it's been easier for him living here in Crested Butte, or would it have been better in Denver?
Well, that's a difficult question. He every year that he's basically played hockey, he's always played up in levels. So like this year as a 10-year-old, he was playing against 12 and 13-year-olds the whole season.
Because 10 is what? Is that a squirt at that point?
Yeah, he was a squirt this year, but he played up at the Pee Wee level.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but we do have a great little crew of hockey players here. We've got great athletes around here, and I have 4 or 5 kids on the team that are like legitimate hockey players. So it's a pretty good community to be in. It's as they get older, it would be a little more difficult to continue to compete, because I mean, you go over to the Front Range and those programs have 100 kids trying out for a team. So they have just say at the Pee Wee level, they have a AA Pee Wee team. Mm-hmm. They have an A Pee Wee team. Actually, they have 3 A Pee Wee teams. Then they have a couple B teams, and then they have house teams. So it's just like a factory,
Sure.
Like it wasn't even in the hotbed of Minnesota when I grew up. It wasn't that insane, but we had 65 or 70 kids try out for the team. So there was an A and a B team, and then house league. Yeah. So and there was always probably 4 to 6 house league teams. Here, I've got a good presence at the Pee Wee level. We had I coached the Pee Wee team this year. We had we had 32 kids this year, so we had 2 full teams at that level. Wow. So it was good. Yeah. But as far as Brett, I've kind of just talking with other people, we've always kind of pushed Brett into the next league, and he's always played up. And it's been very beneficial for him. Yeah. As far as the future and what that entails, I don't know. Yeah. Like he asked us to move back to Minnesota. He wants to go. He wants to go to Colorado and play for the Thunderbirds. In the winter, and even at the tryout, I think they were interested in having him come over next year for the play on their team. Which is it's a great honor, but
sure.
I'm not sure whether logistically that will happen or not.
Yeah, well, I guess you'll get there when you get there.
Right.
But, I guess the reason I asked that question, it's interesting here, because ice time's hard to get, and it's expensive. Anyone who's played hockey knows that. But the cool thing here is that, we're here in CB South at your place, and you could walk down the street and play hockey through the, you can just go, right? It's easy to get ice, even if it's just you skating around with a stick and puck and messing around, and that doesn't exist in Denver. You can't just cruise down to the rink and play. So that part's really cool here, I think.
Yeah, in Minnesota, when I grew up, there was all kinds of outdoor rinks to go jump on. It was easy, but even indoor ice there, it's $400 or $500 an hour.
Yeah,
it's just the cost of ice time is insane.
Yeah.
As well as, and it's the same way in Denver, but in Denver you don't have outdoor ice rinks. It's all indoor.
Right.
The weather and it just doesn't allow to have natural refrigeration over there.
Yeah.
But as far as Crested Butte goes, yes, we're so lucky. We have an indoor rink in Gunnison. We have an outdoor rink in Gunnison that's covered.
Yeah.
We have the covered rink up here in Crested Butte and Bing Bine. And then, just here in CB South, we have an outdoor rink as well.
Yeah.
He can throw his stick and skates on his shoulder and walk over to the rink and play
awesome.
any given night. So,
and there's that little sheet of just the pond ice or whatever, and the same thing in Gunnison, too.
There's a couple ponds as well.
So, it's really cool. I did actually play outdoor hockey in Denver growing up as a kid.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Denver Country Club. They had an outdoor rink when I was a kid.
All right.
They were really...
There was no refrigeration in it?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But they weren't very good, so actually the goalie, he really wanted to play up, and I was like, all right, I'll play goalie.
Yeah.
And it was wicked cold, unlike Denver usually is.
Yeah.
It was like 10 below or something. And like I said, they weren't very good, so I mostly was just like sitting there.
Yeah.
I remember being so cold, because I probably had like 8 shots on me or something. Anyway.
Sure. Not a lot of action.
Anyway. Let's keep talking about the state of hockey in Colorado. So, again, I grew up playing, and I think there were there were probably only 10 or 12 rinks.
Mm-hmm.
There were. Now there's got to be, I don't even know how many sheets ice there are in
Denver,
Colorado, or even I'll call it, because Springs and Fort Collins and everyone plays everywhere. It's and we're starting to see a lot of DU players, and DU's always a really good D1 team, and
sure,
people playing in the NHL. Do you think that's going to continue to be where Colorado's a place where really good skaters come from?
Yeah, it's when I grew up, we'd play in the Silver Sticks or something in a tournament like that, a bigger tournament where teams across the nation would come in and play for us. And
is that was up in Minnesota?
That was up in Minnesota.
Okay.
And man, we saw our schedule, and we saw a team from even Colorado Selects playing against our local youth PWA or A team. Our eyes would light up and say, "Okay, that's a free win for us," because we're at the time, Colorado didn't have real strong hockey. When I grew up. However, it changed a little bit, kind of at the bantam level. I recall, because Colorado had a team and they were really strong. It's funny how the hockey world is small. The reason they were so strong is they had an unbelievable goalie, and Johnny Graham, and he actually was the goalie at Lake Superior State with me, and he went and played about 8 or 9 years in the NHL.
Yeah.
Had a great NHL career, so that was why they were actually a pretty good team.
Right.
To go back, I think Colorado in general, the hockey right now is thriving. I think there's you just look at DU year after year.
Yeah.
They continue to be in the top 10 almost every year.
Yeah.
In college hockey, which is outstanding, and it's not just with the same coach. I
was going to say it's 3 coaches in the last 10 years too.
Oh yeah, amazing. And it's just amazing that they continue to get amazing recruiting classes. And you look up and down their roster. Yeah, there's some kids from Europe, some kids from Canada, but 70% of those kids are Colorado kids.
Yeah.
Which says a lot about Colorado hockey.
Yeah.
Going back to the Thunderbird program, which is kind of the youth program, Angelo Ricci, he's very involved with, he's the director of their program, and he coaches one of their teams. He's very involved with the NHL. He's the skills coach for the Buffalo Sabres, and he played in the NHL. You know, he's just and also there's a lot of ex-Avs over there. Whatever it is, a lot of the Colorado Avalanche end up staying around. I'm sure they do in other cities as well. But you know, these ex-Avs, or Brett has a couple coaches that played for the Avs that are coaching him in the Thunderbird spring program this year. And then you go up in the upper levels, and you got Milan Hajduk. You get just all these guys that used to play for the Avs. So you're getting a good quality coaching staff as well, coaching these kids.
Yeah. So. All my nephews grew up in the Denver area, and they got to play with like Joe Sakic's kid and all that stuff. One of them played for the Thunderbirds one year, but anyway. Well, speaking of coaching, so you already mentioned that you coached even before you have kids, and then now you coach your son. So why? What got you into coaching?
Well, I just wanted to kind of get back to the game.
Yeah.
That's basically what it came down to, and I briefly mentioned it was a way to kind of meet some other families in the community when I moved here too. But mostly it was a way to give back to the community. So that's kind of what I got into it, and then I got out of it for a little while once we had Campbell, our daughter, just because it, even volunteering coaching in Colorado, we were driving
massive miles,
Craig, Colorado, and Vernal, Utah, and I mean, seriously,
crazy.
I might have got my hotel rooms paid for on the weekend, but that was a lot of time given up to coach some youth hockey. I enjoyed it completely. And, but that was the only reason. And then so we had Campbell, and I kind of got out of it because there was a lot to do around the house with having little ones. And then luckily Brett, our son, and he's into it and back into coaching because I just felt that I wanted to coach him.
Nice. Well, we'll just about wrap up hockey, but I'll just say one other thing. I mean, you and I were both in our 40s, and we both play at least some hockey around here, and you're coaching and doing all this other stuff. And I don't even know if this is a question, but it'll be a comment of just like hockey's really cool in that it's more of a lifetime sport than, say, football for sure. Like no one plays football after high school, really, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't know if you want to give a spiel about how rad hockey is or something. Go for it.
No, hockey is a great game. There was a time when I was done playing like competitively, and I was like kind of burnt out on hockey, and just kind of over it. But coaching the kids was, kept my passion for the game, which is great. And then, it kind of fizzled, and it was, it wasn't really there, but through some time and whatnot, and I have other friends that are the same way. Just like after you're done with hockey, you're like, oh, I'm kind of tired of that and I'm over it. But the passion has come back for hockey, and not just for me to even play. We play a little bit of pickup hockey here and there, and I play on Sunday nights with the guys, and once in a while we'll play in a men's league tournament. But just watching the game and having a son in hockey has reignited my passion for the game. And the NHL game now, and the league is getting so much younger, and the skill level and the pace of it is just it's tremendous. They're doing such a good job with it. With that being said, not necessarily is it even for just guys anymore. There's so many girls playing hockey, and the U.S. women's team is just pushing the envelope every year, and you're absolutely right. You just look at the numbers. The amount of adult hockey players out there now is unbelievable. Yeah, and there's some people out there that think they're still trying to play in the NHL at 40 years old, but for the
Right.
most part, it's a very fun, family-oriented sport. You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously Crested Butte is a huge ski community, and for us to be in the hockey community is kind of like on the opposite end of the spectrum, as far as we do go up and ski whenever we get a chance, but we're basically traveling every weekend for hockey. But in the same with skiing too, but it's a great way to have a lot of family time, a lot of road trips, and we're together a lot, and it's awesome. Some windshield time. It's fun for the family.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and the hockey skiing thing, it's funny because that's like a thing here. There's a certain point where it's like hockey or skiing.
Sure.
Which I actually did too. I mean, I grew up skiing at 3 and playing hockey at 3, and at 13, Dad was like, "So you're ski racing at Winter Park every day you're not in school, and you're also trying to play hockey. And which one do you like better?"
Yeah.
So that's why my hockey skills are what they are. They started strong, but then they took a 10-year sabbatical. So anyway. Well, let's totally bring it back, and we'll start to wrap it up. But so you moved to Crested Butte. What did you do for work when you first got here?
I got on with a carpentry or a home builder, Scott Hargrove, and wanted to kind of just take on the trades and start learning about building a house, and was hoping someday, I'd be able to build my own house at some point. But just worked with Scott, and he is a tremendous builder here in town, and still a really great friend of mine. I don't work with him anymore, but he's a really good friend and a mentor of mine, and that's kind of jumped in with their crew and learned a lot from him, and kind of the business side of things, and obviously the carpentry and the general house building perspective every day, and enough to the point where I eventually, after a couple of years, broke off and started doing my own thing, and I've been a carpenter and a home builder, and ever since I've been in the Valley.
Was that something you wanted to do when you were younger then? And did you study construction management in college or anything, or just...
No, not necessarily. I mean, I at one point I did have a business degree. That was my college degree, but I didn't necessarily know I was going to want to build houses or build homes. After high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in college. Anything that I was considering was kind of maybe like, okay, I'm going to go to the technical college and learn how to do welding or carpentry or cabinetry. I kind of thought I'd be in the trades, at that point, and went to school and got a business degree, which I thought was a great all-around degree for whatever I wanted to do. So moved out here and just picked up a hammer and tool bags. Yeah. That's kind of where it's been.
Moved on, yeah. And in case anyone doesn't know, you're a GC, and you're Blue Line Builders, which is a hockey term for those of you who don't play hockey. But did you take any lessons from your hockey career that you bring into GCing, you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's another thing that I struggle with a little bit too. I'm back and forth between the ski community and the hockey community. I'm a very avid and very big believer in team sports. I don't always see that in the ski community.
It's an individual sport for sure.
There's some team related stuff there, but it's so individually, focused.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's fine as well. But I just think that the team community and any team sport just lends such a huge growing lesson to life skills. The business side of things are business, but as far as being at the work site and then having a crew of guys, like, it's a team. We all have to get on that rope and pull in the same direction. So it can't have certain guys doing certain things all the time.
Sure.
And at least with my job and my crews, we're all, we all are carpenters. We all pick up and sweep and clean. We don't. And we all have to get along every day and make the ultimate goal of, getting the house done. It's all very similar. Just it's a team environment for sure. Well,
one last home building question. I know some of your projects lately. So you did a really small house right behind Slogar, the historic building. It was a few hundred square feet or whatever it is, and now you've got this crane and a pretty large, I don't know how, several thousand square foot house, I'm guessing, up in the mountains. So, I mean, do you have a preference? Like, what's your favorite type of job, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, like I think my favorite job is basically the job I'm working on, just because I'm passionate about it.
Good
so,
answer.
yeah, I mean, just like that little house we, took. It's a little accessory dwelling. It was, a long time standing horse barn, and it has a lot of history in Crested Butte. And we took that thing and went through the whole Beaux-Arts process. And recondition that little structure into a nice little accessory dwelling now. So smaller scale, more intricate, maybe more intricate attention to like details as far as like historically renovating, leaving things that are there and trying to tie in, taking old product off the house and reapplying it in the same manner that it was there and making it look like it's been there the whole time. Super fun. And then, we're on a huge project right now, just under 10,000 square feet, and it's massive. It's huge, and it just some days you're like, are we ever going to get anything done? And, it's just totally different, but has all the details that the little house has too, but it's all on just a massive scale. And it's so in that regards, it's nice to kind of just go to one job site, and I'm not. Yeah,
you know where you're going to be for 18 months?
Exactly.
Or is that what it is? Is that the time frame for this?
Well, it's more like 2 years.
2 years,
definitely.
Yeah, okay.
No question about it. Especially when you're, waiting for clients to make decisions, and it's going to be all in 2 years for sure.
Sure.
But yeah, it's nice to kind of just go to the same place every day and know that you have work and just keep being passionate about that.
Yeah.
So, but we're always looking for the next job, and we've got a couple cool projects coming up this summer, and
nice.
I'm getting, when I first moved here and was working with Scott, we were working up in Red Mountain, and it was working on a 35-acre property, and it was it was quiet. It was cool just to be away from everything and just build a cool house. And I've had a lot of projects in town, and now I've got this one up on the mountain. But going back to, we're building a house up in Trappers Crossing at the very top there, looking at Whetstone. It's just going to be like, for a year and a half, it's just going to be, not that our view is not amazing now, but it's just going to be cool to just get away and build a cool house up in a 35-acre property up there.
How long did that horse barn take then, just out of curiosity?
Well, that horse barn, we started that, I think, this time of the year. It was, maybe it was even May. We tore that thing apart and had to lift the house off the existing foundation. So we picked that thing with a crane and moved it to another little spot on the corner of the property there, and put a new foundation in, and then set that house back on there and reconstructed it. And basically, the skeleton of the house remained the same the whole time. So so then we slowly picked away at that thing. I think in the middle of that, we went on and did a remodel on a house in the middle of the summer, just because it was another job, and so we were in and out of that house. But it took 7 months to get that little thing done. Yeah,
I was just curious because those little ones, they're crooked, and you're trying to straighten it out and do this and do that, and sometimes those remodels can be every bit as challenging as starting from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the whole Beaux-Arts process of trying to reuse all the product that was on the house. It's super cool process and fun, but obviously very time consuming, and it's in the end it's a cool way to recreate something and use something that's already there.
Yeah, for sure. There's some really really cool former sheds and all kinds of stuff down in town. It's really cool. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Crested Butte is home for you. Why do you still choose to make Crested Butte your home?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we got our heels dug in here pretty deep. My wife is an attorney here in town. She has her own family practice law firm. She operates out of the house here, and she's a guardian ad litem for the state of Colorado, and does a lot of state representation for kids that are in need, families that are in need, and she's very passionate about it and does an amazing job with it. When I first moved here, I absolutely love this place. I loved being outside. I love skiing, biking, all the things that we do around here, hiking, camping, hunting, you name it. I was way into it, and when she first moved out here, it was a time where, you know, it wasn't super family oriented like it has moved to now. But as soon as we had Campbell, our daughter, it changed quite a bit for her, because she all of a sudden had a whole nother group of people that had the same interest as she did, you know, raising a kid. I think it's completely changed now. I mean, the size of the school, we've added on to that school, and they're wanting to add on to it again, you know, and all in a matter of, you know, 18, 20 years here, it's been added on to a couple times, and our kids love it here, and all the opportunities are here, and it's a safe place to raise kids, and a super cool place to raise kids, and so we just love it here.
Nice. Where can people learn more about you and Blue Line Builders?
People can learn more about me by going to our website. It's it's bluelinebuilderscb.com, and that's kind of an overview of our business. And if they really want to get to know us, give us a call. And that's the cool thing about Crested Butte too, with my clientele, in that they're not just I've been so lucky and fortunate. Like, my clients are not just necessarily clients, and they're clients, and they are on a different spectrum from the rest of our family. They become friends. You know, we travel to Florida, and we meet with clients in Florida that have houses down there, and we see them, and they become friends, which is a super unique situation. And I'm very fortunate to call all my clients really good friends at the same time, which is cool.
Yeah, and I have that same thing with my real estate clients. I ski with them, bike with them, and stay in touch, and it's absolutely awesome people.
Yeah.
So
it gets to be a little tough when everyone's coming into town at the same hotbed times.
Right.
Your schedule gets so busy at those hotbed times, you know, when everyone's like, we're in town, let's go have dinner, or let's go ski or bike or whatever.
Right.
You know? So
right.
It's intense for sure.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
Yep. Anything else I should have asked, or that you want to get off your chest or talk about?
No, I think that's it.
Fair enough. And so final question, who else should I interview?
Who else should you interview? That's a good question. I think you should interview somebody from Gunnison, a family down in Gunnison. You should interview Heidi Sherritt and Scott Bogart. You should interview Wendy Buchanan and Will Buchanan.
I did some construction with them, yeah.
Yeah, Will works for construction, for Miller Custom Homes up here, and Wendy's the director of hockey.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep going with some more hockey direction, she is a great wealth of knowledge, and how she has a lot of information on how even the hockey program,
the inner workings of the the back of the house, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Crested Butte Home Podcast with me, Frank Consella. And as always, if you haven't already left a rating or review, please leave one. Always appreciated. And also, I just received an email suggesting someone that I should interview, and I really appreciate any and all feedback and suggestions like that. So if you'd like to do that, you can visit crestedbutteshome.com, and you can find my contact information there. And you can, of course, also talk to me about real estate in Gunnison and Crested Butte from crestedbutteshome.com. All right, I will see you guys in another couple of weeks with a new episode, and thanks again for listening.